Alright, welcome back to Case Closed Anime Review, episode number 274. We are here reviewing the 25th film of Case Closed, The Bride of Halloween. A movie that came out just 3 years ago. Yep. And the movie itself is literally a follow-up to an episode that came out back in 2002. Because there's lots of references to the episode, and I do mean a ton of references. Now, I didn't mention in my last video for this one, but the movie is doing this thing now where we actually see Conan's thought process when he saw basically figures out a little stock footage. Because they have like about 2 hours, they can stretch out by doing this because in the show it is just, oh, that's it. Here they show the thinking process, which I thought that was really cool, the fact that for that movie and this one. I don't know if they do it for the next three, but we'll find out and see. So, movie starts out with basically like, there's like Halloween coming up. We see Amuro in his car with his partner and looking for an escapee. And the escapee is, I kid you not, the serial bomber from the episode from 2002, the one who killed Jinpei. Yes. I'm like, seriously? They bring this guy back? Who, by the way, never returned to the main series. Because I believe he was arrested, and apparently he escaped, and then he's mysteriously killed by some mysterious explosion, which was not caused by him. And then we see this mysterious person wearing a plague mask, who then proceeds to knock over, basically, the explosion knocked apart. Of course, you have Amuro pull the guy up, and then this person walks to the Amuro and puts an explosion collar on his neck. Or his neck, like, damn! You're like, what the heck is this? Excuse me. Of course, yeah, they have Halloween coming up here, so everyone's putting on some costumes, and because what's happening in this movie is interesting, to say the least. Oh, before the whole escaping thing, we had this really weird opening. What looks like Takagi and Sato getting married. And then it turns out by the end, like, oh yeah, people show up, and yeah, this actually plays in a role in the movie because of it's the whole drill. But at one point, you have Takagi and Wounded. That also plays a role in the movie in a weird way. Well, of course, Ami basically tells Sato she looked very beautiful for a wedding dress, and she actually smiled at it because she definitely, I definitely agree with Ami about that. Sato looked very beautiful for a wedding dress. It's a shame you had this wedding and you don't buy her mom. Even if it's a fake wedding, you could at least buy her mom to a fake wedding. And the person escorting down the aisle is, like, I see this, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you retired. Yes. For some weird reason, the guy escorting down the aisle is a guy who was written out of the show. Yes. Kanoya Masamuto. Yeah, a guy who was literally written out of the series, and he was replaced by a different guy. Yeah. Hideo Kuroda. He replaced him. Yeah, this was probably by far his first appearance in terms of the anime since, well, since this came out in 2002, it came out just last year. This probably was his first appearance in 9 years. Yeah, he basically would just run out this canon story. Oh, by the way, there is a reference to other people here. Yeah, and this is the first time he appeared in since like Raven Chaser. And I believe this movie is probably his last official appearance in the franchise. Because the character was really dropped for this series, placed with a different character. Not really sure why. It's just, that's kind of how it is. Yeah. By the way, second wedding he's been to. Because last wedding he went to was actually his daughter's wedding, who nearly was killed by her future husband. It was kind of weird. It's like, oh, basically because she basically blames her father for, like, it's a very confusing thing with him. And his daughter only appears in this one story. And the daughter is, I kid you not, she was basically like, her name is Saroi. Yes. If I remember correctly, she was basically, I think she was Conan's I think she was the teacher. Excuse me. The teacher for Ran Sichi. Yeah, it just, yeah, the dollar shows up for this one case that came out in 1996. Yes, you heard me right. Which was the superintendent's debut appearance. Yeah. And so, oh, they got married in 3 years. I'm like, okay. Yeah, someone in the future got married. Yeah, it's like, this guy was just here just to be there for reasons. Not to see the guy again. What the heck he's been up to since he last appeared? Don't know. I guess people saw this movie when it came out back in 2012. Like, hey, it's that superintendent guy. Where the heck has he been for the past 9 years? Yeah. So, then afterwards, then we have like, oh, they're gonna meet up. So, Mori is apparently this guy appears in the movie. He's referred to as the Demon. His name is Tatsumoto Muraoka. Yeah, 41 years old and getting married to a very beautiful woman named Christine, who is 40. I'm like, damn, look, you, a woman looks that good for 40. Yeah, apparently they met like at the hospital where she was looking for a patient card, and he just, and it's like fall in love. They get married. So Mori is basically, so of course they have like lunch, of course, and then we see this mysterious bearded guy, which apparently Amuro met this guy in a flashback. Yeah, because it involves basically a bomber who put the bomber on his neck. By the way, his name is not revealed to be later to actually be Oglog. Yeah. So, then of course, basically, it's like, by the way, the guy is called Parama, this mysterious bomber. Yes. So, he's basically carrying a partially damaged tablet that's not working. So basically, he just happens to have this, like, this tablet, and he's about to get the entrance of the police department, and then he fucking explodes. You're like, what the heck? Yes, like he gets exploded. Thinks his tablet. Oh, before this, he dropped a note. Yes, he dropped a note, and Hybera, being a very polite little girl, just gives to him. And this guy speaks Russian. Yes, speaks Russian. Which Falcone can speak Russian too for some reason. And I speak a little. And of course, thanks him. And then that's when an explosion happens. And then she is like flung out to the street. Mori, not being stupid. Thank you for not writing me stupid. He goes out to save her because she's about to run by a freaking car. And then he gets hit by a freaking truck. And then he's written out of the movie. I'm like, really? I guess watching like, really? You have this really, really like shocking moment. He's like unconscious. Like, he basically, his head is badly bruised because of this. Thing is, he's not deemed to be stupid. I mean, basically everyone can see what he was doing. He was saving a child. So then, of course, Then we have where Conan and Rand just happen to run into the couple who's about to get married, and like of course the Monroe's getting nervous. Christina's like, oh, looking forward to it. So, and then of course because Maury's in the hospital, Conan's like, I'm gonna save Professor Gossett tonight. You can stay here to keep an eye on your dad. And she's like, okay. And then she's right out the movie at that point because she does practically nothing after that. She's there, but not here. Also, this movie is the first movie in a while to not feature Sonoko. You know, Rand's best friend. Yeah, she is not in this movie. And you're like, why isn't she here? Like, why isn't Sonoko in this movie? My guess is because she probably wasn't needed for this movie. I don't remember her appearing in the movie per se. Maybe a very minor role, but I do not remember her appearing here at all. I don't think she has a speaking part in the movie. Like, I remember seeing her when she's interacting with Rand. So, also, of course, Agasa creates this big ball, which also plays a role in the end of the movie. Like, wow, so much setup for the end of the movie, which, good job, movie, doing that. So then, of course, basically, we see these mysterious people wearing pumpkin masks. Yes. And, like, first of which, they have the detective boys go to this facility, which Christine was supposed to go to. But before they go there, actually, before that happened, Conan spots members of the Public Security Bureau, who did escort him, not to headquarters, surprisingly. To this underground shelter to see Amuro sitting in this giant cube shelter, and apparently has a bottle of wine next to him because he wants to be safe. Doesn't want to kill anybody, die. So yeah, he does explain what happened like about 4 years by the end of the series, which basically means, oh, maybe this happened back in the 90s. Despite the fact this is implying this happened back in 2018, but in the context of the story, it could have mean, like, and this is my personal guess anyways, that if it had been for modern technology, this flashback probably would have taken place in the 1980s. That's my guess anyways. But because I mentioned 4 years, it means 4 years prior to 1993, which means presumably this is probably supposed to take place in an alternate version, presumably of, if you believe the show's sliding timescale, this probably would take place in the year of 1989. But this didn't happen that particular year. No, it did not. It's like this is implying this is set in 2018, despite the fact it really shouldn't. So, Honor was part of the Public Security Bureau at this point. Junpei is off for a ride, and then they basically called in to deal with this threat, this multi-purpose building. Well, they go inside. It's him and Junpei, and then, oh, by the way, the whole thing with Junpei, how he's involved with this is interesting. So after the explosion happens, they go through the guy's remains, and they just happen to come across Junpei's business card, even though that by the time he died, he had just been issued those because he transferred from Division 1. And, like, how the heck he got the business card? Yeah, this actually is explained in a flashback. He gave it to the guy in a flashback. In the flashback we see here. And then, of course, we see this weird-looking bomb. Yes. Where it's like two liquids. If it connects, it would explode it. So then, of course, they chase after this person. We don't identify the gender of this person. Where it's doing a lot of parkour. It's like, this person's not human. This person doing literally parkour, so I don't know how the heck he's considered not him be doing parkour. And then the person is shot by Jinpei. But looking at basically they have where actually Jinpei was actually shot by one of the other people. So then the bomber gets away. They set the bomb by basically putting a piece of gum in it. Later on, when they try to test the fluid in a facility miles away from Tokyo, excuse me, the facility explodes, killing the scientist. Yeah, good in for that. And also, throughout part of this movie, Sato is very distraught over the fact that Jinpei is being brought up again. And they also bring up what happened in the episode in 2002, where basically Takagi, when they're trying to catch the bomber, he literally just put on disguise, and he just happened to look like Jinpei. Yes, just by sheer coincidence. It's a weird thing that's not really explained in the show of why in the world that Takagi looks like Jinpei. Like, Takagi is a complete opposite of Jinpei. For one thing, his hair is shorter, and he's a lot more he's very clumsy. But he's a guy who's very serious with what he does. Yeah. So then, of course, you have Sato basically recounting basically of what happened. Like, this wasn't exactly explained in the show, but I'm sure probably this backstory related, because he mentions that he joined Division 1 on November 1st. He died on November 7th. And apparently he didn't stay in the local dormitory, which I would think police officers would have their own apartments, not stay in some dormitory. But apparently he stayed at HQ, much to Sato's amusement. It was also implied she had a thing for the guy in the flashback. Not this one, another one. That she may have a thing for him, but she seriously loves Takagi. Probably because of how nice that guy is, and despite the fact that he's actually a year younger than she is. Yeah. So, then of course, like, Kimbo's like, Conan, what are you doing here? It's like, yeah, he was just chatting with her about it. I mean, technically, he's at one point even following her down the hallway, and she's not stupid to not notice him. I'm surprised she's like, come here, kid. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised basically if she actually probably wanted to do that to Conan because she keeps following him. Oh yeah, and apparently from the Public Security Bureau point of view, like, Amuro was running this whole investigation via a freaking cube in a basement. Yes. And by the way, he does not see Takagi and Sato until very recently in the anime. Because they keep asking about him. And those partners like, yeah, we're taking over the case. So then, just by weird coincidence, an inspector who has not been seen in a while in the series, like, I saw him again here, I'm like, yeah, it's Shiratori. And you're like, what? What the heck is he doing here? Honest to God, that's a good question, because he was just seen back in Zero the Enforcer. Like, I think his appearance in this movie is kind of surprising. By the way, he was just recently featured in the two-parter, The Suspected Infidelity of the Triple Collab, which came out last year. That was the last time he was seen in the main series. In the manga, was actually in chapter 1105. Which I don't think was adapted recently from an episode. No, it has not been adapted yet. Yeah, so basically the anime adapted his second to most recent appearance in the series. But it's nice to see him at this point in time. I think at the time this movie came out, basically, it had been, I would say roughly 2 years since he's been seen. Not as long as, let's say, some of your characters, but yeah. Like, he basically gets a phone call, obviously, ever talking to Takagi about supporting Sato by Kobayashi. Yeah. I'm like, that is interesting. I did not expect that at all. Like, to have her make appearance in this movie, you don't physically see her, but she's on the phone. I thought that was quite interesting. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did not really expect that at all. No, not really. I thought that was really cool. The fact that they actually featured that. Yeah. Yumi's in the movie, but she doesn't really do anything at all. No, not really. Like in the case of, though, in the previous movie, she didn't really have a role. She just there, just be a supporting piece for Aki's brother. Here, she is just here for one quick scene, has no voiceover cameo. She just here, doesn't speak at all. So, then of course, Detective Boys find the very similar looking bomb in this building. I'll get back to present day here. So, they get back to this, and Edward gets Nicole tries to fix it, but oh crap, he basically gets a sample of liquid, and then he jumps to the window, he goes to the window, doesn't jump to the ground because it's like 3 stories up, so he climbs to the pole, and then the pole, because the place explodes, the pole gets melted by the heat, and then you see him running across, and the pole is like dropping like crazy. And luckily enough, Hyper had him get this sheet, which they caught him with, and Conan is actually texted the member of the Public Security Bureau, because by the way, they're actually at this point, they're actually trying to work with him. Ask him, can you please analyze this sample of my jacket? He's like, sure. And apparently it's the same stuff. So, and of course, the brief about the bomb situation. Of course, they mentioned, oh yeah, because when they mentioned Watari date. Now, prior to this, because prior to this whole thing with this meeting, Kevin had been kidnapped. But you think it's Pyre? No, it's a group of people have nothing, who basically hate Pyre. Yeah, they hate this bomber. So, then of course, basically, because they want to see Jinpei, despite the fact everybody here in the room knows Jinpei is dead, he died in a freaking bomb. He was blown up in a Ferris wheel. Yeah. So, yeah, then of course, basically, you have Takagi just put on the skies because, well, he easily pulls it off. Now, if you're thinking, is he possibly related to Jinpei? The writer himself has never revealed that at all. It just by sheer coincidence, he just happens to look like him. And no, it's not basically Jinpei suffered with amnesia. Takagi is a completely separate character than Jinpei. One thing, he does not know Amuro at all. Not really, he does not know him at all, because if he was Jinpei, he would immediately recognize him as he saw him. Yeah, so, and of course, playing the bomber thing, and of course, I love it when they have Atari date, when they mention, and you see Takagi react to that name, because he knows it really well, because that was his previous partner for Sato. Yes, who died in a traffic accident. Which, they do mention that Jinpei was killed in the bomb, Date was killed in a traffic accident. It mentioned Marufuji. Yeah, they couldn't exactly mention what happened to him. Now, Kenji, I think he died in an explosion. They didn't really bring it up here. Marufuji, they couldn't exactly mention what happened to him because it was a classified secret. Well, there's a reason why, basically, that he was not legally allowed to tell him. Because he was undercover in the black organization as Scotch before he had to basically force to commit suicide in front of Aki. And of course, Amuro blames Aki for killing him, despite the fact he just commits suicide. Yeah. So they can't exactly set the thing, but they said everything else. Like, of course, they work together, and then of course, basically, like, oh, they want him to meet up, and of course, they have these. Then they go to this square, and this square also plays a role in the finale, which is really weird. So then, of course, basically, it's like, okay, so then we have these people in the costumes, so Candy as distraction. Of course, the guy gets taken. So Sato's response is to slap Amuro's partner, and she's not charged for assault because basically that, yeah. And by the way, the people there are shocked the fact he did this. She did this. Moguri's like, I saw nothing. And as for the public security subordinates, they're like, we're not doing anything about this. He probably deserved to be slapped. So they didn't bat an eye to this at all. So then, of course, Conan proceeds to follow them. And after, following Jinpei, a.k.a. Takagi here, and basically has to disguise his voice. He does a really good job with this. Really good job performance. He mentions he does a really good job. He's like, if somebody hadn't ruined my performance halfway through, a.k.a. Cabo, basically just blurted out, Jinpei's dead! Oh yeah, so then we reveal what the heck these people are. Apparently these people are extinguishing fire. And their leader, they're known as Nando Uchazatsi, I think it's pronounced it. Yelinka. There's Dmitry Grigori and Sergey. Now you're thinking with some of these names, those sound like Russian names. Dmitry, Grigori, and Sergey. And you'd be right. Because these characters are Russians. You're thinking, what the heck are Russians doing in Japan? Simple. They're here hunting the bomber who killed the people that they love. Elena's in charge of the organization because, get this. So, her husband was a police officer. And she also, and of course she has a son too. And just because he dare arrest a parent of a certain politician, they didn't say who it was, this politician ordered the hitman to kill him and his family, and she's the one who survived with a scar on her face, and the explosion killed her husband and her child. You're like, what? She murdered a child. Oh, excuse me. No, I don't want to spoil everything here, but I'll get to it later. So, the bomber killed a child. So, these are previously victims of this bomber. So, they basically spent the whole time chasing this person around the whole freaking planet. And of course, then Conan starts broadcasting this thing to the undercover van, thanks to his special glasses. And so here's the thing. The police are not mad he did this. They're actually quite happy. They didn't arrest anybody, but basically they got Keba back, no problem. So then, of course, Keba basically, like, as soon as he gets back, here comes his girlfriend, just jumps in his arm, like, so happy to see him, and he just picks her up and just, excuse us. And I'm presuming, basically, that he basically has probably calmed her down, probably gave her a good makeout session afterwards. Yeah, probably kiss her a lot, because they're dating. And, yeah. It's, like, interesting, now that all the female league officers all got boyfriends. Sato is dating Takagi, Yumi is dating basically a shogi player, and Nago is dating Keba. And the thing is, you see these three guys who are dating these three women, like, you lucky dogs, you get these people who want to be your girlfriends. One would have to be a childhood friend, which I thought was really cool. So, yeah. So, of course, they get away, and then, of course, apparently the wedding is happening, despite all this. So, they're apparently blackmailed by Parama to have the wedding, or else basically will blow up the frickin' the Shibuya Square. Yes, the Shibuya Square. And you're thinking, excuse me, Nick, was that the same place in Jujutsu Kaisen that was the famous Shibuya incident? Yes, literally the same city, but different universe. Don't worry about that. Shibuya does not get blown up by basically Tsukasa, basically demolishing half the freaking city. He's not there. Don't worry about that. This is like real, semi-real life with this stuff. So, then of course, Conan basically figures stuff out, thanks to all thinking about it, and then he forms an agreement with Elena because he finds out who Pyre is. So, like, everybody's like, oh, move aside, officers, not you. And you, groom, move aside. The bomber is your bride. You're like, what? Christine is the bomber? Yes. So, it's thanks to a note that basically, that Rand basically found out. So, the note also played a role too here. It's all about Parader with Halloween. So, then, of course, the Detective Boys are told bringing this build the replacement ball device. So, then, of course, like, oh, I've been found out. Let's take out my beautiful dress to wear this very skin-tight outfit. Fire a freaking machine gun off at officers carrying pistols. But look at basically they'll fire like oh crap, the bomber's the bride, like oh crap, and everyone's like panicking at this. So also they have planned after the wedding to ride around Tokyo in a helicopter. So then of course basically it's like oh detailing the plan. Conan's like oh I'm Conan Gawa, a detective. It's like really, and then the helicopter shows up, but here's the thing. The pilot is probably the pilot they hired, because the pilot is Amuro. You're like, wait, I thought you had bomber on his neck. Nope. The one he basically ran was a fake because he able to defuse it. Somehow, thanks to Jinpei. So, then of course, basically, like, where they actually then blow part of the helicopter off. And I'm like, damn, you're finding a beautiful woman here, even though she's only 40, but she looks gorgeous. And they fight back and forth, and the helicopter crashes in the square. Amuro's barely standing. Christine is basically knocked out by her now her ex-fiance, and she's arrested on the spot. And of course, don't kill him. Basically, she will be charged basically for her crimes. So. But then, of course, the liquids basically are spilling to the square. She's going to blow up this freaking square with these two liquids. When they touch it, explode. So, look at the ball comes into play. So then they have to basically stretch out the elastic suspenders to all over the place, this damn thing. And, well, then the ball grows, but they need more people. So then, of course, basically they have... by the way, Takagi was really excellent shot, so he helps off a little bit, and then of course Sato notices this, and of course he gets taken away, which we'll get back later. And then of course the group that was chasing the bomber, they help out too, and then thanks to the ball, they're able to stop the liquid. Liquid is poured out by the firefighters, and of course she's definitely arrested for these multiple crimes. And it's like, okay, so the guy is going to go to surgery. He's like, can I get a good luck charm? She's like, sure. Telling Sato this. And then you have Ami, Hybra, Genta, and Michio witnessing Sato and Takagi making out. It was funny. Yeah. I thought this was interesting. And then they have surgery, of course, and play, oh crap, Takagi died. And then we have the funeral, and it turns out the funeral was a fake, because Takagi was not in on it at all. So apparently the chief of police, government's funerals, but the funeral for the government, the chief of police's grandmother has been threatened. And you're like, what? All over this again I thought was kind of funny. But I did enjoy this. I really enjoyed this movie. But what is great, I at least got to praise the fact there's more than one action sequence movie. There's like, last movie had a freaking train get derailed, fly up in the air, fly into a freaking stadium. Here we have bombs going off. This was awesome. I love this movie. I also appreciated, though, that Sato and Takagi had something to do after being sidelined last movie. Maguire got a little bit more to do here, not much. It's a shame that Sato, Yumi, and Nikiko, these two women do absolutely frickin' nothing. The detective boys get a little bit to do, not much. They're not basically helpful with the plot. High praise. The other three, not really per se, but I guess best thing for them was witnessing Sago and Takagi make out. Yeah, but amazing movie overall. And sadly put, we only have 2 movies I can watch, and then I have to stop because, well, despite having the original movie come out last month, it's not been released online yet. So there's that. So that is pretty much that particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. I'm going to play voice for a bit, then do 2 comment corners, and then work on the very next Case Closed movie. Okay, next video. Bye.